So, welcome back. We have looked at epistemic logic, which is reasoning about knowledge, but we have also said that knowledge is characterized by the fact that you can only know true things, and that is because we have the truth axiom in epistemic logic that says that an agent can only know something which is true. So, if agent A knows a sentence phi, then that phi has to be true in the domain essentially. We saw that this logic was useful. So, we saw the muddy children puzzle, that when you have incomplete knowledge, you have incomplete information, then as you get more information, then you can do some reasoning and figure out what is happening. So, it is a useful device to have. Without this truth axiom, agents can believe sentences that are not necessarily true. So, for example, agent A can believe that the earth is flat essentially. It does not imply that the earth is flat, agent A believes that. So, we know of course, that lots of people believe lots of things and they are at odds with each other on such matters. The world is full of such contrasting beliefs essentially. That is one of the reasons why logic is involved, that when people have different opinions or different beliefs, then they could sit down and work with this formal system to arrive at what is really true essentially. But let us look at what can happen if we do not have the truth axiom, and such logics are called Doxastic logics, which are kind of logics of belief. Then we have to think about things like belief revision and so on. We do not have too much time here. The fact that agents can hold false beliefs open up all kinds of possibilities. In particular, one now has the possibility of inducing false beliefs in others essentially. As you know, it is not a very uncommon thing essentially. So, we have heard about fake news, we have heard about disinformation. So, for example, even as I write these slides and as I present these slides, we know that there is a lot of disinformation about Ukraine, that both the east and the west are saying that the other is meddling in Ukraine, and it is not clear as to what is really happening. And then of course, election time, they can offer you the moon. Reasoning with beliefs is a much harder task, and this whole area of research is still in its nascency. So, we do not have anything to talk about, but what I would like to talk about is some possibilities of what one can work with if one is interested in this area. Inducing false beliefs is the basis of deception. Deception has existed since time immemorial. Even in World War II, the Allied forces had tried to deceive the Germans into saying that they were going to land in one place, whereas when they had landed in a different place. So, deception is a common and powerful tool in all adversarial situations. But how to do deception is still difficult for us to do that, and we will look at a couple of examples, but I should underline the fact that this is future work, and somebody who is interested in this has a meaty problem to work on essentially. So, I will discuss two problems that we are looking at here, without discussing how we are trying to solve it. One is this story called the Gruffalo. So, let me read that. I mean, not the story itself, it is a very delightful book to read. If you can get your hand on it, you should really read it. It is a children's story by Julia Donaldson that tells the story of a clever mouse, and this mouse is confronted with the prospect of becoming a meal for 3 animals in succession. First it meets a fox, then it meets an owl, and then it meets a snake, and each of them is keen to eat the mouse. The mouse invents an imaginary character called Gruffalo and convinces his potential predator, that instead of the mouse getting eaten, they are the ones who are going to get eaten, because the Gruffalo likes to eat a fox, and the Gruffalo likes to eat an owl, and the Gruffalo likes to eat a snake, and so on. And those creatures, they believe him and they run away essentially, and the mouse lives to tell the tale. The story gets really complicated when, as the mouse is going along, it is going in a forest looking for nuts or something like that, and it actually runs into this Gruffalo, which it thought did not exist, and it had imagined, and it really shows up in front of him, and the Gruffalo says, I am going to eat you essentially. The mouse deceives him also by saying that it is he, the mouse, that is a dangerous predator. He says, do not mess with me, otherwise I will make a meal of you, or something like that. And as evidence, he leads the Gruffalo and he says, come and show how people are scared of me, or how animals are scared of me. And he takes them towards the fox and the owl and the snake, and all three of them, they see this pair approaching, and obviously they run away in fright. The point is, they are running away from the Gruffalo, but the Gruffalo does not know this, and the Gruffalo thinks that the mouse has told him that they are running away from him, and so the Gruffalo believes this story, and it runs away in turn essentially. So, as you can see, this is to do with deception, this is to do with beliefs and inducing false beliefs in others and so on, but it is also to do with other aspects of being in a domain of problem solving, fighting for your survival and things like that. And what we want to see is, how can a mouse invent such a lie? How would you implement, supposing you were implementing this whole thing, how will you implement a mouse which could do this sort of thing essentially? What different kinds of representation and reasoning will one need to combine essentially? So, look at the different kind of reasoning that the mouse has to do to be able to do that. So, given that escape is unlikely, the mouse has to goal of scaring its predator. So, we presume that the mouse is not in a position to run away. So, it has to do something clever essentially, and it decides that the best thing is that the predator should run away essentially. Now, this is because the mouse can imagine the fox, for example, the first animal it meets is scared, that if the fox is scared, then it is the fox that will run away. So, his goal is to now scare the fox. So, he invents a monstrous creature called the Gruffalo and describes him in vivid detail, and how he likes to make a meal of foxes. How would an agent come up with such a plan to tell a lie to create a false belief in the adversary? That is a difficult question to answer. The mouse has to imagine how the fox will react to in such a belief essentially. And the mouse has to decide to tell a lie essentially, that I have a friend called the Gruffalo, he is about to come and eat you essentially, and of course, hope that the fox will be deceived essentially. So, if you do get your hands on this story, do read it, and if you get time, think about how you can handle this kind of reasoning that is happening there. The other example is from my favorite domain of contract bridge, which sometimes I say is the secret goal of AI, because we have had game playing programs which have mastered all the board games, the chess and Go and so on, but our game playing programs are still not good enough to beat the best humans essentially. So, this is a example I am giving from the game of bridge. You do not have to know the game, I will try to describe it irrespective of the game. I want to show that this involved reasoning with possible worlds, and that is the point that we are trying to make. So, without going into the details of the game, we are talking about one particular suit. I hope you know what is a suit. So, we are talking about diamonds, and this is the actual distribution of the diamond cards, and we are talking about this player south and this player west. So, the goal that South has is to, as we say in bridge, set up the diamond suit this thing. The assumption that South has to make. So, he has to make assumptions that this must be true, and the assumption is that the diamond ace has to be with West, which means this condition, which happens to be true in this real world essentially. And then the plan that South makes is to play a small diamond towards the king essentially. So, again there is some plan of playing the diamonds in a particular way, and South has made this plan. Now, West is also alert, and West knows that South is going to play on diamonds, and West is also active. But let us look at the situation from South's perspective. These are the possible worlds that exist for, because see, South can only see South's hand and North's hand. That is how the game is played. This thing, South cannot see these hands. So, the remaining cards of the two players can be divided in different ways, and those are the different possible worlds that South has to contend with essentially. So, these are the possible worlds that we can talk about. So, let me unrub that thing here. So, you can see that we had decided that ace has to be there. So, in all these hands, as you can see, ace is with West essentially, but any of the other cards can be with West. So, those are the possible hands. We have tried to cut down on this set of possible hands by introducing something called X. So, this X stands for a small card. So, which is why in the actual case where we have ace, queen and 4, we have written as ace, queen and X, and the other X is there, and we have put a count of 2 to say that these are actually 2 different possible worlds, but as far as planning is concerned, they are the same. So, we have this 1, 2, 3 and 7 possible worlds in which this plan, whatever the plan is, will succeed, and there is only one possible world in which this will fail, that is shown in pink here essentially. So, it is a reasonably good plan, it is a very good chance of success, and that plan is to play a small diamond towards the king. So, we have said this is the situation, and this is the real world here, which as you can see is the same as here, ace, queen and small and one small there, and now South has a plan, and West can anticipate that South has a plan. This West was in fact an army cadet, army sergeant I think, called Maurice Gray, and this happened during World War I time. So, it is a real life situation, it is a real life example. So, as you can see, all these green things are in which the plan would have worked, and the one which is in dark, this thing outline here, is the one in which is the real world. So, which means that the South's plan would have worked in this real world. But if the real world was this one as shown here by this arrow, then West, who was Maurice Gray, could do a brilliant play, which is to throw away the diamond ace before South got a chance to play diamonds essentially. Okay, so, that much is important for you. So, once he throws away the diamond ace, this situation gets transformed into one in which the diamond ace is gone from play essentially, and then it turns out that that is not a situation where the South plan will work. But this is only if this was the real situation. In the given situation, whatever West does will not work essentially. If the situation was the one as shown in the arrow here, then this play would have been brilliant essentially. but we are working in this world of incomplete information. South does not know what west holds, west does not know what south holds. So, what happens? What is the effect of having thrown the diamond? In the real world, west has thrown the diamond. So, you can see that there is no ace here essentially. That would not have affected the plan, and the plan would have succeeded essentially. But this is what Maurice Gray did. He actually threw away the diamond ace, and as a consequence he convinced the declarer that that was not the real world, that the real world was this one here, and he has converted the real world into this one, which means that South's plan will fail essentially. So, he had only pretended. That is what deception is about, right. And as a consequence of this, declarer believed that this is the actual hand, the one below and not the one on the top, because this throwing away of the diamond ace would have been meaningful in this possible world. And so, because he has thrown the diamond ace, it must be this world, and declarer actually abandoned his line of play and tried something else and was defeated in the contract essentially. So, deception is still very much a very nascent field. We do not have programs which can do this. Of course, we have programs which can produce deep fakes and things like that, but it is not that autonomous agents are doing something. There is deception going on, but the deception is being done by people. How can programs do deception is still very much an open field, and we will end with that essentially. So, this is just to illustrate what is happening here. These are the possible worlds. The possible worlds on the left hand side, which includes the world which is the real world. So, this is the real world, but from the South's perspective there are many possible worlds. From the west perspective, all these other worlds are the possible worlds essentially. But what west did was that it played as if this was the real world, and therefore, was able to deceive the declarer essentially. So, with that we come to an end of our study of epistemic logic, and in fact, with the end of our course. I hope you enjoyed doing this course, and I hope you benefited from it, and I hope that it will help you do some useful thing in whatever you are doing. So, it was nice for me to offer this course, and I hope you enjoyed it too.